Mario Paint, released in 1992 for the Super Nintendo, was a surprise hit for Nintendo. A creativity game, basically, similar to PC games at the time, that kind of taught kids some edutainment stuff, mostly through art. And it has a pretty good legacy behind it, even though it had a failed sequel in N64. Mario Paint was something that Sega wanted to do as well, since Sega was trying to go into the edutainment field with their new console, the Sega Pico. We'll be getting to that console in the next episode. But Sega's like, we're going to have our own version of Mario Paint. Sonic Paint. Well, they didn't call it Sonic Paint. They called it something completely different. They called it Wacky Worlds Creative Studio, which is technically a Sonic game because the main character you play as, well, is Sonic. So this game is a little different than Mario Paint, even though it is based off of it. Eventually we got planets we can go to as Sonic here. There's a lot of different unique planets, but we're going to start off, since we're in space, with the space planet. And that is where you'll figure out the game is just really, well, it's not really as good as Mario Paint. Essentially, we have a lot of different objects we can interact here. This game is very edutainment based, so if you played any PC games in the 90s or early 2000s, you'll know what vibe this has. Now, me personally, I really like those PC edutainment style games, and this one is pretty okay, but compared to Mario Paint, it has a lot less features. So we have a lot of little elements we can move around here, as you probably can see. You can move around the spaceport, you can move around these aliens, and these are all buildable stuff. This is just showcasing all the elements you have here, because we have a bottom menu and a top menu. If we click on the top menu, we get, well, what happens is that we get a lot of items here. So we can choose all the items for this map, including this alien here, and some planets and buildable spacecraft stuff. Though it's more or less like use your imagination for this stuff rather than just drawing, than like Mario Paint was. So you're just kind of just collecting up little planets and stuff, and you're placing them down. And you even get some Sega characters, like this is, I think, Toe Jam, and there's Earl too. I'm not sure which one's Toe Jam and which one's Earl, but they have those other Sega characters, which is pretty neat. Not a whole lot, but yeah, we can basically make our own space scene. And we even have the ability, as you see on the left side there, to select the elements from other worlds too, which is pretty neat. So you don't have to just do everything space related. If you want to put fish in the space, go ahead. You want to put a mermaid in space, you want to put like a ghost, there you go, you have the option. Anyway, once you've placed a bunch of elements, we've got a bottom toolbar here, which gives us a lot of different elements to choose from. But we're going to choose these hands here. You press the stop, it makes everything freeze. Nothing too interesting there. So if you don't want these things to keep on moving, which some stuff does move, there you go, get the stop bar. And everything's frozen. And you press the walk button to make everything move again. We've got 4 different types of hands here. So we'll click on this one here. This is the magic movement hand. Basically everything you click on will do a little animation there. The little alien guy will run away, and all of them will have different unique movements. Some of them already move, but now they'll move even more depending on what motion you click on them. And a lot of background elements don't have movements, just the character ones. Like here, clicking on space, ports, and stuff like that doesn't really do much. But most of the items have movements. They have unique movements. Isn't that fun? Our next cursor is the paint cursor. This allows you to take any of the elements in the zone, the world I should say, and paint it. There's actually different types of layers here. So this planet has different types here you can paint it. So there's 2 areas, and you can paint in different types, shades of blue, black, orange, yellow, purple, pink, any color you want. That was in the Sega Genesis library. And basically you can create whatever you want, any element as color, but they don't have that many in terms of what you can do. Mostly just 2 colors different you can change per element. Like if I take this guy who's either Toe Jam or Earl, I'm not too sure, I can paint him red if I wanted to. And there you go. He looks more orange than red, but whatever. But I also can paint his trunks a different color as well as his shoes. So I can make his pants yellow and his shoes yellow too. Well, isn't that nice? After coloring, the next cursor is the delete cursor, our last one. And this just explodes everything, basically, makes it go away. So yeah, if you want to blow up stuff, there you go. Bam. They all go away, unfortunately. Though there's actually better ways to doing that. For example, this bomb button here makes everything go away. Every element in the world explodes, and we're left with nothing. And the planet restore button restores it to the default settings of the planet, or the world in that case. And Sonic makes you go back to the main menu. And our last feature is the boombox, which actually gives us unique sounds. Here you can basically mess with the music that's already playing, and the music changes on which world you have, so they'll play a space theme, though it really is not really that intuitive, to be honest. I can change the instruments, and that's about it. The middle section, I have no idea what it does. I played with it for a while, and it didn't seem like it changed anything, or in fact, you can change the speed of it, so you speed up the music. Overall, the music isn't that great. Genesis doesn't have that wide variety of music. I do like the sound channel, but when it's not used right, it just sounds like a lot of jumbled up mess of bass and stuff. Overall, not bad, but compared to Mario Paint's music editor, it's not as intuitive and as good. And that is basically the whole game here. The rest of the planets do exactly the same thing, just different types of worlds. But let's see what they look like anyway. Let's go to the castle world. And the castle world is basically a planet in the sky. We have a unique vegetation and lollipops, as well as being able to build a castle and putting in princesses, knights, and kings, and all that sort of things you want in your fantasy world. The first thing I had to do here was paint this dragon, because I was like, nope, this dragon should be purple with yellow wings. And if you can guess why I painted this dragon that color scheme, you can get a virtual cookie. The next area is the beach area. This area, well, it doesn't look like a beach area. It's actually a jungle area. I was tricked. And this basically has all your jungle stuff. You got a bunch of animals and a bunch of trees you can build and make. I placed down Tarzan here. Maybe that isn't Tarzan, but that's one of the first things I grabbed. And I also picked up Jane and put them next to each other. There you go. Isn't that lovely? One of the characters in here is, believe it or not, Tails. For some reason, he's in this jungle area, and you can put him wherever you want. And he flies. If you click the magic button on him, and he'll start to fly around. But if you don't, he'll just stand stationary. And you can even paint Tails if you want, so you don't have to have him being yellowy orange as he usually is. You can make him blue if you want. And unfortunately, there is a limit to each of the sprites, because I found out in this area, if I was placing down elements, that some elements would just disappear if you place too much of them. You can place background elements and buildable stuff as much as you want, but the actual characters, not so much. In fact, I just realized now that one guy over there is glitching out. And so I decided to see what it's like to build a tree. So I was able to build a bunch of weird looking trees thing here, of branches, just to see how high and how much things can place down. And there's quite a little options you can choose. Not the most in-depth, but hey, I could see a little kid playing hours on this game, just using this. The next world I decided to go to was the one that has a shark on it, and this is the underwater world, if you couldn't tell. Basically, this water land has a bunch of fish and stuff, and it has similar coral building as the trees, as you couldn't tell. So, yeah, I actually kind of like the way this one looked, and I was even able to discover more little tricks about them. So, pretty neat little area here. I decided to place a mermaid down and give her a new paint job, because I wasn't a big fan of this. I wanted her to have a green tail, because, you know, green, and have a purple top and red hair. Can you guess why I did that? Anyway, I started placing down some scuba divers, and I found Echo the Dolphin. That's technically Echo the Dolphin. You remember that Sega character? Well, yeah, there he is. He's on the cover of the game, too. The next world I go to is this house world. You know, a nice little cozy home. And inside this world, I found a ugly-looking baby, so I put the baby on top of the toy house that were inside the house, and there's space outside the house. What's ever going on here? And they already have a built-up little decorative house, which you can build yourself if you want to. So there's actually a lot of things going on with these assets, at least. Most of it is just building your own miniature houses, and there's quite a lot of pieces to that. So I guess you could really go crazy. I took this mom character, who's also really small. Maybe it's a toy, and I put her on the windowsill just to think about what she's done in her life. There are just a lot of weird things here, like whatever this thing is. Like, geez Louise, this is a weird-looking object. And, of course, I found a Sonic picture. I mean, of course, this is a Sonic game, right? That's the reason why I'm talking about this game, is because of Sonic, and I had to place down his portrait. And this weird blimp here. I also found that they have every type of letter there is, so I decided to spell out my own name. Just because, you know, it's the first thing you think about. The first, well, that's one of the second. The first thing will be like, is hello, and the next thing will be a curse word, but, you know, I'm keeping it family friendly here. This is an edutainment game after all. One of the last things I did here, I thought that Tails would fit pretty cozy in this home, so there he goes. Alright, final world is a ghost world, or your horror world. Now, I'm a big fan of Halloween-style worlds, and this one was just okay, to be honest. I wasn't a big fan of what I saw here. It's your generic stuff, but overall there's a lot less elements here, I felt like, and a lot of the elements weren't as cool as the other ones. There's just generic looking scientists and some test tube equipment, some of your Tesla coils and stuff like that. Overall, a little disappointing way to end it. So here's an RIP. The last thing we have here is a meteor right in the corner. And what does this give you? Well, it gives you the credits, of course, and that is Wacky Worlds, or Creative Studio, whatever you want to call it. And in case you're wondering, this is what the Sega Genesis mouse looked like. It essentially translates over the Genesis controller into mouse form. It has the start button and the three buttons there. So it's interchangeable what you want to use. If you want to use the mouse, the game did come with this mouse. That's why the Clee versions are so much more expensive. The Sonic News Network, which is what I use for a lot of these some information on the Sonic games, says that there's a PC version. I cannot find a single bit of evidence that even existed, so that's why I didn't mention it. Wacky Worlds Creativity Studio is just an effort to get to that Mario Paint demographic, but overall, it is just okay. Well, I find it a little fun. I don't think most people nowadays would get much out of it. I like old studios, stuff like this, where you make your own things. I could have spent more time in it, but I basically showcase everything that you can really do here. You can get pretty creative with some elements, but overall, it ain't no Mario Paint. Also, this game, you can play without a mouse, though it did come with a mouse, unlike Mario Paint. It is not really a rare or expensive game, oddly enough. Loose price is pretty cheap, and a complete price, you're going to pay a little bit more, but like I said, most of these old games don't have the complete price, but then again, Genesis games you kind of want to have in case, because it's kind of easy to find them in case compared to other cartridge games. But either way, this game was never re-released, so this is the only way you can play this game if you want to play it, unless you want to play an emulator like I did. It works fine on emulator, probably better doing it that way. But there you go. Sonic is on the cover. It's definitely is. It's not the main guy flying around space is Sonic, so we're counting it in this retrospective. I decided to put Wacky Worlds into the C tier at the bottom, mostly because it's not too interesting as a Sonic game, nor as a creativity studio for that matter. There's way better ones to use, or nostalgic-based ones, and I don't know how many people have played it, but I am curious. Did you have nostalgia for this game? This is like a game that someone would have nostalgia for. But at the same time, I haven't heard a whole lot about the game, to be honest, other than the fact that Sonic's part of it. So that's all I got to say about Wacky Worlds. Bottom of the C tier, not a bad game, but overall not a really interesting or memorable one, and not a whole lot Sonic in the game. He's on the cover, and so is Tails, but overall, you have better options.